The answer is I have not been good at protecting my calendar, and that's probably prohibited me from getting to financial freedom even faster. Like if I had actually embraced time freedom better. So this is the email I wrote today to my client base. I said, if you're successful, visible, or quote unquote good with money, hear me clearly. You do not, capital do not, owe everyone unlimited access to you.
Welcome back to the Time Freedom Podcast, where you can learn how to rethink your work and your money to create a life you love right now. Join us for insights to help you find meaningful freedom so you can choose how and when and with whom you work for as long as you want. Here are your hosts, me, Brian Harriott, and Kirby Dennison. Today we welcome Bernadette Joy, who is not your typical financial expert. A first-generation Filipino-American with 2 business degrees and a psychology background, she knows what it's like to feel financially stressed even when the paycheck looks good. Here's the thing. She's walked the walk. In just 3 years, she crushed $300,000 of debt. And by her 30s, she hit a net worth of over $1 million while working 20 hours a week. This is basically what we preach, right? She is a featured money expert on CNBC, Forbes, MarketWatch, and Yahoo Finance. And she's taken the stage at FinCon, South by Southwest, NASDAQ, and TEDx Houston. And yes, TEDx Houston is the same stage as Brene Brown. I'm just saying. Bernadette blends academic smarts with street smarts to help people rethink what's possible with their money. And she's a riot. Bernadette Joy, so nice to have you here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm really excited about today's episode. I met Bernadette at a FinCon conference in, was that September? Was that September now?
September, beginning of September, yeah.
Okay, so 4 months ago, based on my math. And got to listen to you speak. You did one of the breakout sessions and it did some signings for your book. And I thought your presentation was awesome. Just the way you speak and tell it like it is, I really appreciate it. So really, it was
I'm
that
glad
where
that
I'm
you
like,
still invited me to the podcast after that. So thank
it
you.
is why I invited you to the podcast because I thought we could have a lot of fun. But anyway, yeah, so thanks for coming. One thing we like to do at the beginning of the podcast, just to kind of get us in the mood, is to ask a question that, I don't know if we call it a bit or something like that. But it's one of 3, and I did give you a little bit of a lead in, but to know it's
Yeah.
coming. But it's either which of the 3. So the 3 questions are: what's one thing that you've changed your belief on? Who's somebody that's made a huge impact on the trajectory of your life? And then the other one's, what's something that people maybe don't know about you? And then we're gonna try to answer the question as well, just to keep it fun and interesting.
Well, you know what? I think I can answer all 3 in one
Go for it.
in one response. So one thing that I think a lot of people don't know about me is I actually have a skin condition that's called eczema that has kind of been a like silent villain in my in my life for the last 40 years. And so today is a kind of a big step for me because I'm showing up today without any makeup because I knew if I put makeup on, it would make the condition worse.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring that up specifically is because one of the things that one of the reasons I decided to become financially independent was because without insurance, the medication that I have to take is $2,400 a month. So when I say that I understand people's like medical challenges and all of that stuff, that has been a big part of, I'm sure, what we'll talk about. So a lot of people don't know that about me. And someone who has been very influential in my life, actually, I don't think I've actually even said this to her, so maybe I'll send her the podcast episode afterwards, is my co-host, Stephanie Gonzalez. And she and I met at FinCon many years ago. We became really good friends. Yeah. And she's changed my trajectory on things because she is not someone who's into like clothes or like fashion and like she's very like au naturel and like into health and stuff. And I was like, well, if she can do it, then I can do it. And she's changed my belief in the last couple of years, specifically too, of, what are we doing when we go out like to places like FinCon, to events like this? Are we caring more about how we look? Are we caring more about how we serve? And so I've changed that a lot from the perspective of I used to really care about like, let me make sure my hair is perfect and let me make sure I like look really good or whatever. If you saw me at FinCon, like I don't even think I was wearing makeup during that talk. And so that's changed a lot specifically for me over the last 3 years where I'm prioritizing my health versus how I look.
That's super cool. I don't know if I would have noticed one way or another, but I don't really tend to think about that, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's just that I'm
I
like
think Kirby can
a
probably attest women think
I'm a
that.
guy.
I also have been going more like the all natural route. And so like today I do have makeup on but I don't know, 90% of the time Brian can attest like I just show up and it's just so much more freeing when you can show up as yourself and not have to put that mask maybe or like a front
Literally,
on.
yeah.
So I really love
Literally.
it that, you know, are we here to worry about what we look like or are we here to serve? Like that
Mhm.
speaks
Love
to my soul.
So let me do mine, which is just on this theme is something I don't know which category this falls into, but something of interest. I was in theater and I used to wear makeup in theater back in high school, a
Mm.
long time ago. But then just this year, I was as part of Heroic Public Speaking. It's a program that teaches how to become a better speaker. They make a speaker reel, and one of the things they do is they put some foundation on your face.
Mhm.
Realized that I had not experienced what that felt like, what seemed like forever, but it is. It's just like you can feel it on there. And you're all probably like,
Mhm.
"Oh yeah, duh." But like for me, like I was like I had no
It's a
idea.
different feeling. Yeah.
Totally different. It was fair. It was literally when you said it's literally a mask, I'm like, "Yes, it's exactly what that felt like." So anyway,
Mhm.
I wore makeup in the last year. That's the thing that people don't know about me.
That is something I didn't know about you.
Yeah, just once. Just the one
Just
time.
once.
Yeah.
I guess the thing that people probably don't know about me, I don't think I've said it on the podcast. I'm like trying to remember all the way through is that I don't know. I really love like the homesteader life. Brian knows most of the people on if you've listened to know that I have chickens, but I totally am into like the sourdough, making everything from scratch. Like, and
Mm.
I honestly have seen such a difference in my kids doing that, like just starting things from scratch. Clear through to some people know this and some people don't. That I mean, both my husband and I hunt, but we actually process everything ourselves. So that's
I love
what
that.
from start to
Do you
finish.
have
So
you
we're
have
the only people.
like a barn where they hang and stuff like that? Is that what
Yeah,
that
we
means?
do. We usually don't let them hang too long. It depends on the weather. Then yeah, we have all this stuff to process them ourselves, and so our kids help, like you know,
Oh,
grind up the
that's cool.
meat for burger and sausage and things like that.
This is such a collection. So I'm in California, you're in rural Colorado, and you're in North Carolina, right? Where are you,
Mhm.
Bernadette?
I'm currently in North Carolina. I split time between here and Vegas.
Oh, you do. Oh, cool. So, before we start, can you just give us some kind of quick demographics to help? So, the way that we try to do this is to talk about people's journey toward time freedom, financial freedom, and then, especially for those that have it, focusing a lot on how you got there, because a lot of the people listening are, kind of there in that part of the journey. But anyway, just to give everyone a sense for who you are, if you could share a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, hello, I am Bernadette Joy. I am 40 years old this year. I'm married. My husband was on here earlier testing my microphone and stuff. We've been married for going on 15 years. We are child free. We currently split time, as I said, between Charlotte and Las Vegas. I am the eighth of 9 kids. I'm a first generation Filipino American. I was born in New York City. I have traveled quite extensively. I spent my first decade of my adult career in human resources in corporate. I left that career in 2016 to pursue financial freedom. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that, what
Yep.
that next decade looked like. And for full transparency, I actually announced my retirement on December 10th of this year. That coincided with the first anniversary of my book. And when I said that I'm retiring it means like I'm trying to figure this thing out as well. And claiming back my time. And I am also a huge K-pop stan and
I
spent
love it.
in concerts, and I think I would have been able to retire earlier if I didn't.
To give us a sense for how much you spend on K-pop concerts.
You know what? I'm afraid to look at that number. I'm gonna say probably 20K this year.
I love
That
it.
that
Good
is
for you.
awesome. It's a whole line item in the budget, which I think is pretty
Oh,
awesome.
100%. Yes.
That's awesome.
I will just say that I didn't know what K-pop was until Halloween and all these kids were dressed up as them and I was like, what is going on? And
No.
so the
Mhm.
last week, we have been listening to K-pop Christmas music for apparently it's on Alexa. It's what my kids listen to.
Nice.
Yes.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yes. 25 people ask me like, "Oh, it's such a big free year for you. You turned 40 and you're retiring and your book came out and all that." I'm like, "No, this is the year that the rest of the world found out about K-pop." That's how I
Yeah.
remember 2025.
That's
Yes.
awesome. Well, I also got married at 25. I'm 10 years older than you, so I'm almost 50.
Mm.
But yeah, but I'm in, researching your story, I found some similarities. It's just it took me a little longer to figure it out. I think that's what it kind of
Hmm.
boils down to. But
Mhm.
I just want to dive right in. There's so much to talk about, I think. You said that you're retiring, but you're trying to figure it out. Can you go a little deeper there?
So I think it's serendipitous that you and I met at FinCon. So just to give you context, so the week before FinCon, one of my clients turned friends who was also in the personal finance space, who I brought to FinCon the year before, her and her husband were hit by a drunk driver and killed. And this is
Yay.
the week before, the week before FinCon. And so when I get to FinCon, like I was meeting so many people, I was hosting that year, I was speaking, and I just was not myself. I just like I tried to hide it the best that I could, but I was like
My
I
God,
was
yeah.
crying every day. And the only other person who also knew this friend was Erica Young. If you saw her at FinCon, she was hosting one of the other days. And, she and I like had a very long conversation, before FinCon, just checking in on each other, first of all, and, sharing our memories of our friend and all of that. And I kind of just was like, what is all this for? Truly. Like why am I running myself ragged this year? And this friend in particular, she and I had talked about all these things that she was going to do when the time was right. And I was going to help her build this business and get out of her corporate job and all these things. And she's like, just give me another year, give me another year. When this happens and when that happens, when the timing is right, then I'll do it. And obviously that time never came. So I felt very like, it sounds very cliche, but when something like that happens, you like take a step back from your life and you're like, okay, how much of this actually really matters? And so I did the thing that I was scared to do, which was now like the week before FinCon, I hosted my best clients in Charlotte. We do a quarterly summit and I told them I'm going on sabbatical. And I was so afraid to go on sabbatical, even though I probably needed to do that for the past 2 years. Because, well, what happens when I tell all my clients that I'm not taking any meetings, I'm not doing any work, like I'm gonna have to start over. What if everybody leaves me and I have to start over again? And what was so reaffirming was that all of those clients said, okay, we'll be here when you get back. Like take the time that you need. So FinCon was actually like my last like obligation work thing that
Yeah.
I did. And then I went on break for the last 90 days. And so during that break, I said, it turns out I didn't die. My net worth didn't plummet. I went through a renovation. I bought a home. I started moving my retirement stuff. I started waking up without an alarm clock, all those things. And then I was like, actually, I really like this. So I was intending to come back from sabbatical on December 14th. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to. I just want to retire. That's the truth of what's happened is that I hadn't intended on full retirement, but and this is what I tell a lot of people, like if there's something you're scared to do, try it first. So
Yeah.
sabbatical was like a trial run. And it turned out that all my biggest fears like didn't come to fruition. And so why not just give this a shot? And then worst case scenario, I said to myself, I'm actually on recording with another finance personality arguing about this where I had another person saying to me, well, you're going to retire at 40. You're going to be bored. I bet you in 3 years you're going to be back. I'm like, well, you know what? Then I'll have the best 3 years of my life and I'll just come back to work like everybody
Yeah.
else if that's what happens. So
Mhm.
that's where we are right now.
Yeah. I love the testing it. In June of 2023, I took June, July, and August off. It was a wonderful summer, but my feeling at the end of that was I needed to get back, right? And that just happened to be my experience at the time, and yours
Mhm.
was the opposite. And you just got to go with it, right? And if you've done some
Mm,
saving and some of those other things along the way, I think it gives you some. We were talking to someone the other day, and they kept using the word optionality. I mean, that sounds like what we're all going for. It was kind of cool.
mhm, mhm.
So what are you, so are you really going to just do nothing? That's kind of cool. I mean, yeah, that's a cool answer.
Well, today, I mean, like, I woke up today, like, I had I mean, not nothing. I will say this is that during
I'm
this
just kidding.
time, I watched a lot of Netflix. I'll be honest. But it was like a fitness, I highly recommend y'all. Physical 100. If you have not been working out and working out is hard for you, this show will make you want to work out. So I
Is it
watched like, yeah,
oh,
Physical
cool.
100. There's 3 seasons of it. So I watch a lot of Netflix, reconnected with a lot of old friends.
Oh, great.
I hosted a lot of gatherings. I'm hosting the holidays. I also, I had, like I mentioned, I bought my retirement home,
Mhm.
paid for it in cash, renovated this place, and started rearranging. Okay, even if I were to come back to do things that I was doing before, like what are the things that I really want to do? And so there will probably never be a version of Bernadette that does absolutely nothing, but everything I do to the best of my ability is going to be as intentional and as aligned as possible. There were clients in the past that weren't aligned. There were investments I was doing that wasn't aligned. There were things I was doing because I thought I had to do it. Like this past year, I did at least 50 press interviews.
Oh,
And when I say press interviews, not just like podcasts and stuff, but like, hey, we need you on TV in an hour from now. And so, this year's just going to be a lot slower. I still think I'll be doing things within personal finance. One of the big things I'm really excited for in 2026 is that I have a campaign going. The informal tagline around it is stop the slop, as in
cool.
I'm going to be hosting a summit in Charlotte for like 200 or so people in personal finance who are dedicated to not just putting AI generated content out there and
Oh,
actually
nice.
serving their audiences. So I think the biggest difference probably and this is the first time I'm probably saying it even out loud, is the difference is that I will be a lot more of the behind the scenes Bernadette, the person that's behind the platform, not the person that's on it.
I have a question for you, which is when you
Hmm.
look at your financial independence and the freedom that you have, what do you attribute more to your freedom? Is it the money you've saved and the nest egg you've built, or the ability that you have to make money when you choose to?
Boy, that's such a great question.
It just came to
Ooh,
me because I feel like you have talent in both of them, and not everybody does,
thanks.
right? Like some people are great
I have a
savers, and
talent in
that's
either of
perfect.
them, actually. So I'm like, which one am I best? Here, that
As
is such
she's
a great
retiring
question.
at 40.
I'm thinking about this. Full transparency. I share this with people, who are willing to listen to it. So my husband and I have a current net worth of 2.135 million. About 400 of it is in this new property that we bought, and the rest of it is investments. I don't think I've done the best that I could on the investment side. Meaning, like, I'm still trying to figure out how do I invest and not give not give my money to billionaires. Like, that's something that I'm very actively working on in 2026. Because, for example, like, I get the advice to put money into the S&P 500, but I'm in a different place than the average American. Like, I'm an accredited investor. I have options to put money in building communities and not just like giving Amazon more money, right? So I think I want to say this. I think that the confidence I have in my ability to make money, regardless of the economic situation, regardless of what's going on in the world right now, regardless of AI or whatever, like, I have a lot of confidence in myself that, like, I will figure out how to make some sort of money. And I can make enough money to cover my lifestyle because my lifestyle is not extravagant and my lifestyle is very affordable. Like, for example, the biggest expense for a lot of people is their mortgage, and I don't have one. And that was by design. It took me 10 years to be able to do that, right? So I will say that the ability to build income is kind of like my backup plan. And where I am focused for and where I need to do better in 2026 is investing in a way that is both intentional and optimized. And I don't think I did a good job of that this year. I think I did. If people look at my finances, they'll say, okay, like, I showed my clients I made 85K in that I could track so far, 85K in dividends and capital gains, which was more than what I made when I first started this journey, like
Yeah.
working a day job. But given my wealth, like, I think I could do better than that. But that's because I haven't focused on it. So that's what I want to do in 2026.
That's that moment when your savings get to a certain amount where you're taking in more from the gains and the interest than you are from what you work. You're not ready for that until it happens. That was my personal experience. Anyway, another question that I have for you is around the financial freedom path versus time freedom path, which this is my whole story and kind of what led me down this path. But you got into financial freedom so that you can have time freedom. What happened to me is we were getting close and then COVID hit and that crash happened at the
Mhm.
beginning of 2020 and everything changed. And I thought, oh God, I can't do this anymore. And
Yeah.
then my wife basically said, well, what is early retirement mean to you? And for me at the time, and still, it wasn't not working at all. I would still be working. So she first said, well, that's not early retirement. And then second, she said, well, why don't we try to do that earlier? And what that made me realize is that, a lot of us, including myself, think you need financial freedom first and then you can have time freedom. But really, you can have time
Yeah.
freedom and still have to work, right? And so you've gone all the way through it. And so you have a kind of a different perspective on it that I've never had a chance to ask anyone that before. Like, if you did it again, could you have time freedom sooner before you hit financial
Oh,
freedom? Or would you choose not to do it that way and still do it the same way? Either, however you answer is a good answer. I'm just kind of curious.
I mean, we're only like, what, 20 minutes in? This is the best interview I've had in a while. Because you're asking questions and I'm like, you know what? I have not thought about that. I will say this is I think this is timely. I put out an email today. Let me even pull up this email because I think it's actually relevant to this conversation. I will read
Yeah.
you what I wrote in this email to my newsletter today.
Yeah.
The answer is I have not been good at protecting my calendar, and that's probably prohibited me from getting to financial freedom even faster. Like if I had actually embraced time freedom better. So
Mm.
this is
Hmm.
the email I wrote today to my client base. I said, if you're successful, visible, or quote unquote good with money, hear me clearly. You do not, capital do not, owe everyone unlimited access to you. Here's what I already make available for free: a podcast, a YouTube channel, a free guide, a book you can borrow from the library, 100+
Mhm.
articles across multiple platforms, and 100+ guest interviews on podcasts, stages, and shows. And I have been accused for gatekeeping. And so I would look at all this work that I'm doing and get like 2 comments of like people who say, "Hey, can I meet you for coffee?" And I say no. And they say, "Well, you're a gatekeeper and you're not generous and you're whatever." And so
Mhm.
then what I would do is, now I'm going off script off of the email, is that I would not protect my calendar. And so anyone who asked me for anything, I would say, "Yeah, sure. You want to meet me for coffee even though I know you're not going to do anything I told you we're going to
Uh-huh.
do, or you don't want to buy my book, you don't want to buy my program or whatever, but you still want free consulting." And so this is where I wrote, what I protect now is my calendar. I reserve my time for long-term family, close friends, and paying clients, and I get villainized for it daily because somewhere along the way, society decided that successful people should trade their time, labor, and emotional energy away for free. And I said, hard pass. Not doing that. And so the reason I think this is serendipitous that you're asking me this question is that I kind of look back on I would say specifically the last 3 years, on how many things that I did be out of like obligation
Mhm.
or fear of like being called like selfish or whatever, that had I actually just focused on the things that were both life-giving and mutually beneficial, I probably would have even gotten to financial freedom faster if time freedom was more of a priority for me back then. So I would absolutely do that over again. I probably would have done half the speaking engagements. I probably would have done half of the press interviews, and I probably would have spent more time on yoga and I would have taken more time off. Like while I was like, I could have still done that when I hit the first million. I don't know why I had to wait until I hit 2 million to do that. So I have some regrets about it, but you
Wow.
know, and I think that's part of this, why I appreciate you asking that question, is that a client told me this past weekend at our summit that when she has seen me, she's watched my journey for the last 5 years and only joined my program like now. And she said, your journey just seems so linear. And I was like, that is so far from the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm glad that we're talking
Yeah.
about this to say, you know what, like it wasn't all roses the whole time, but also like there's a lot of things I'm really proud of, but there's also some things like I would absolutely go back in time and tell Bernadette, stop doing like letting people pick your brain for free all the time.
Mhm.
Boy, I love that. Yeah, I'm glad that my wife asked me that question too along the way, because then it allows you to kind of do what you choose to do in the moment. And I also think then you're like mentally better, in a better situation to then be able to work on that one thing that probably then just does accelerate your financial freedom much faster, which is
Mm-hmm.
maybe another version of
Mm-hmm.
what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
This is talking about weird and unique questions. As you were talking about what then people think and blah, blah, blah. I'm kind of curious, you've put a lot of material out there. I don't know what the right way to ask this question is. What's the one
Hmm.
piece or something that you've been the most trolled over, or like the most,
Rolled
yeah, like,
most.
man, like which one
I
do
get
people just, yeah.
I get trolled on so many things.
What made me think of this question, I had kind of thought about it before, but is I saw your post recently about not having kids and then how people reacted to that. And well, I had 2 thoughts. One is, maybe because I live in California or something, but I have a lot of friends that have no kids, tons of them. And
Mhm.
it's not a big deal. It's actually, and then the second point was when you don't have a high schooler, that's really nice, I'll bet, because that's what I currently have. So anyway, I had the complete opposite reaction to what some of those trollers were doing. But
Yeah, to be one of them.
yeah,
Like
really.
whenever I talk about being child free, people are like, "Oh, well, that's how you were able to like build so much wealth and blah 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 and whatever." But I would say more recently, like I've been trolled about a lot about things. Like people will argue me about like why I've chosen to rent for the last 3 years. People have argued with me about why I paused my 401k to pay down debt. People will argue with me about like now that it's been fascinating now, like now that people are like seeing me now, they're like, "Oh, you're so privileged and whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." But what I think has been an interesting trolling, which I'm going to kind of like double down on this year, is that I've actually got into a lot of kind of arguments online. No one has actually ever said this to me in person, which is another thing with like certified people specifically. Because I'm not a CFP. I don't have any of the certifications. And so people like the easiest thing to attack me on is like, oh well, you're not certified in all these things. And the rebuttal I've had to folks is that yeah, I'm not certified because those particular certifications were not made for me and my community. Like fully. Like if you look at the statistics of who has those certifications, they don't look like me. So I mean, and I have to say to people, now this is you're gonna get a little whiff of Bernadette. It's like, okay, I have I graduated at the top of my class in my MBA program and I have 2 bachelor's degrees and I wrote an entire book and I've had 500 people uh go through my program on top of the 500,000 people that have seen my work. And you don't think I can pass a test? Like, yeah, I can. And also, like, not to be stereotypical, but I'm Asian. Like, I'm really good at math. Like, I can pass that test real easy. Okay? So don't even come at me with that nonsense of like, you think the CFP test is hard? Okay, no, right? So, you
I'm so
know,
glad we
that
got you,
has
Bernadette. This is great. Keep going.
so that's come up very recently because people have seen now that I've like I've achieved a certain level of success and like also steering people away from certain things. Like no, I don't believe in whole life insurance. Like no, I don't believe in paying high fees for mutual funds and stuff. And so those are the same people, which I understand why they're attacking because it is a little bit of threatening to their livelihood. And so that's something that I think I'm going to get a lot of in 2026 because I see the trend now of people saying you shouldn't listen to them because they're not certified. On the same token, I'm saying, well, you shouldn't listen to someone who's certified who doesn't live what they preach. Because I met plenty of financial advisors who are broke. So that's something that's going to become. Thank you
Appreciate it.
for bringing that question up because now I'm gonna.
Nice. I
You've
love it.
opened up a can of worms for me now.
Okay, so this is another take. So I'm tall, weight, average sized male, heterosexual person,
Average
right?
size.
I mean, I'm kind of right in the middle, or I'm, on that one. But I went through, but I'm married to a wife who makes me aware of things. Let me put it that way, from the woman perspective. And then I wrote this book and a program that is all about, doing editing passes to make sure that it's accessible to all types of people. So I'm learning,
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning, I'm learning. And I'm going to try to start to talk about books written by women and all those sorts
Mm-hmm.
of things.
I love that.
But from your perspective, yeah, like as a learning person in my position, what's the one thing I should really be aware of or do to help fix this? Not forever, but
Mm.
like to contribute. Let me put it that way. I don't know if I can fix it. I'll try.
You know what? I will say that you just being authentically you, because in the short time that we met at FinCon, like you were so like kind, and I could tell very like from the moment that we met, like you're genuinely like a nice person. It's easy to solve, just like don't be a dick, right?
Don't be a
Feel like
dick.
these other guys are just like not being nice at all. But something that came up. So speaking of this like kind of situation, the reason this even came up was because and this is where I thought it was interesting. It happened on LinkedIn. Like it didn't happen on like Twitter or whatever. This happened on LinkedIn where like another CFP basically was like trying to discredit me and saying like, you don't know what you're talking about. What you're saying to people is dangerous. Like I'm like, what about me saying paying down debt is dangerous? Like what about me telling people to save up like I like whatever, right? So what this guy didn't do or I didn't expect, right, was that, and he said, I looked you up and I read 2 articles about you, so I know everything about you. And so therefore, I'm right about this. And, I responded and I called him out on this and I said, okay, again, like my audience is different from yours. You live in a city where help me understand how you're on the CFP board in your city and I look at the photos of your CFP board and your city is 60% non-white, but your CFP board isn't 100% white. When he said, oh, this has nothing to do with race or gender or whatever. I'm like, but it does. But it does. One, the fact that you acknowledge like that there is there are challenges, that's in and of itself. And so what was interesting, and I'll get to your question here, is like, I posted this exact experience onto my platform, and everyone who commented in support of it was another middle-aged white dude. And they all said,
Oh,
Bernadette's right. Bernadette's right. Y'all, we have to do better. She showed us the facts. The facts are that 87% of the people who are CFPs are white males. So yeah, she's not wrong. And they reposted it. And they said I'm going to bring up this conversation to my board, right? And that's all I could ask for, right? And I didn't ask any of them to do that. They did that voluntarily. So even the fact that you have me on your platform today says something. The fact that you have Kirby as your co-host says something. The fact that you say that your wife tells you, keeps you in track is saying something, because a lot of the folks are not even willing to do that. Like in that example, if that guy had something issue with me, I thought a better response would have been like, hey, I don't understand some of the things that you're talking about. Let's get on a Zoom. Let's get on a phone call. Like, let me understand. Let me ask questions. But instead he said, I read 2 articles about you and I know everything about you now. And I think what you're doing is dangerous, versus asking the questions. And so to your question of the question, like I can already tell that your probably best attribute in this is you ask really good questions and you ask them earnestly. I think if more all of us, whether we're white, black, female, male, whoever, if we all just, instead of like attacking and just saying, hey, I don't understand where you're coming from this, let me ask you some like thoughtful questions, like that in of itself would be a huge help in helping us all understand each other. But like a lot of people aren't willing to do that.
and then
You
listen
are.
to what you're hearing, to what's being
Yes.
said. Thank you. Thank you for that very nice compliment, first of all. And then also knowing that you're controlling your time better now. The fact that you came on our show is great. Thank you. That makes me feel good.
Well, I'll tell you this. You know what caught my eye on your email to me? Because you said, are you back from sabbatical? And so that already told me that you've been following my content and you've been paying attention to what I was doing. Because how many podcast requests and whatever requests I got during
Oh, probably
sabbatical,
a
people being like,
million.
I need you here right now. And I'm like, then you have not been following me at all. Because I said, I'm not doing anything. So you said, are you back from sabbatical? I was like, "Phew, that means he was actually paying attention. So that again, but that's
Cool.
the fact that I have to say that is incredibly rare is a little bit sad, but also
Yeah.
like not a hard thing for us to do to stand out and differentiate from other people in our space.
And it's got some of the same themes I'm feeling with like the stop the slop thing. Like, just like, let's get back to like genuine people focused things and not just like spraying and all that kind of crazy stuff. I know we're coming up on time, but I wanted to ask you a selfish question around your book. Cause I've got a book coming out and you have had a successful book come out. Is there something that from the market, like, so I've written it, I've spent a lot of time and money and hours and everything to make it a good book. So I've got that going for me. But now I'm switching and focusing on kind of the marketing and the platform building and all of that sort of thing. Is there anything that you learned that you did great or something you wish you would have done selfishly that I can then model? Book is
Yes.
coming out
Okay.
here in the next year.
So when is your book coming out?
September 15th, 2026.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So selfishly.
Hybrid published. So I have time.
Yes.
I'm not rushing it, in other words.
Okay. So the one singular thing that I thought was really beneficial was that I decided to lend myself to like 3 conferences in the year before the book came out, where there was people who would be the advocates of the book, not just the readers of it, but the people who would be willing to help me spread that message. So unsurprisingly, like you and I met at FinCon, right? And so the FinCon the year before, I was hosting that year, and my goal at that FinCon was to book 50 collaborations by the end of the weekend. And I did. When I say book them, not just like, hey, here's my card, let's connect or whatever. I was like, no, they would be on the calendar scheduled by the time I leave. And I brought 50 copies of the book with me and gave them to those people and asked them to, I just said, I don't expect you to read the whole book, but tell me more about your platform and your audience. And then I literally was like, here, just read this section. Cause I think this
Mhm.
section is where I think you would really, like, your audience would really like it. Cause I knew my whole book. Right. So those first 50 collaborations like multiplied itself. And to be honest, I was really surprised at how many books we were able to sell. Like, because I don't have a big platform. I'm a coach first. Like, I don't do social media. I'm not a brand influencer or any of that. And at first I thought, I'm like, oh, is this good or bad? Like, we sold like 5,000 copies. People were like, oh, like the average book sells like 200 or
Oh,
something. And so I
yeah.
was like, oh, like, okay, so something is working here. And I realized it was not me. It was me willing to put their brand to the hands of people that I trusted who were then willing to advocate for it. So I didn't do anything like a lot of people do, like the PR boxes and like all that
Yeah.
other stuff. I didn't really do a lot of that. And so I went in person. People just like you saw me on stage and were like, I like her vibe. I want to talk to her. And then so that went really well with like those first 50 collaborations, and several of them were like larger platforms. And then what did not go well was that I spent this is being honest, I spent too much time traveling last year to events and, again, where anytime people ask me to do something that I did not vet out well enough.
Mm.
So I looked at how I spent 50K on travel last year. 20 of it was probably K-pop related. The other 30K was related to like the book tour. And I probably didn't have to do half of that if I had really actually just taken a step back and been like, okay, what's the point of me going there? So I would rather go to, if I were you, knowing what I know, I would pick like 3 to 5 like major events and see how I can leave that event with like a small army of people who are like genuinely like, I'm excited about what you're doing because what you're doing is
Mhm.
so selfishly. I'm going to ask you to come to Charlotte in May.
Fair enough.
Yes, there you go.
Let's close on just kind of a future looking question. So you're at where you are now, and I think you're like me in that you kind of don't really know where your life's gonna go. But if you had to guess it, what do you think you'd be doing in 10 years when you're my age? You just turned 50. It's so hard sometimes, but I'm curious if you thought about it at all.
So I'm in this organization called Entrepreneurs Organization. I'm in an accelerator program with it. It's for businesses that are scaling to like $1 million in revenue annually. And we had this question come up literally last week. And it was the first time ever that I had nothing to write. Like I sat there and I was just thinking, I don't know what to write. This is how stuck I was. I went into my phone and ChatGPT and I said, ChatGPT, I'm in a meeting right now and I'm supposed to answer this question and I have no answer for this. And I said to ChatGPT, I said, I have no answer for this because I feel like I've accomplished everything that I wanted to do up until this point. And I said, this is the first time in my life that I feel like I just got here. Like I finally got to retirement. I just bought the home. Just like the book was a 1 year. I wrote the book. I did all the TED Talks. I did everything. So what am I supposed to be writing right now? And the facilitator came around and he was like, you're not writing anything. I'm like, bro, because I have nothing to write. I don't know what to write. It was a little bit of extensive. I was like, my book is literally called Crush Your Money Goals. I'm like, I have no goals. Like, what is happening here?
I just
And
crushed them.
so I was like, wait a minute, is that actually, maybe that's a good thing. I don't have any goals to crush because I crushed them all, right? But like, that sounds a little bit of a flex. So then the one thing came up, and this is why I'm working. This is all I know right now, is that 10 years from now, I still want to feel and look like I'm 40. That's it.
I love it. I love it.
Like I somehow want to stop the aging process. Like I don't need to get younger. I just need to like not age so quickly. So I don't know what that means. I know yeah.
Well, you're 10 years ahead of me. Again, like this year, I finally got a trainer because I work out, but I feel like I'm just working out to work out. Like I don't have like a
I like this.
specific,
This is
yeah.
working.
So I need my workouts to be more intentional so that I can go back to 40, but I can stay at 50. And another tip from my dad, I shared this with another podcast guest, is always tell people that you're 5 years older than you are, because then they'll say, dang, you look good. You look really, really good for 45, Bernadette.
Well, thank you. So I generally get that people are usually surprised that I'm 40, which I love. Like I'm just gonna I'm gonna roll with that.
I would be
But
too. Yeah.
But I went to a silent retreat a couple weeks ago.
You did?
And yeah, 5 days. And I wasn't you're not allowed to read or anything. You just have to sit there. And that's a story for another day. But the girl, like, there's a young girl, like a college girl next to me. And at the end of the silent retreat, she was going around to everyone saying, hey, like she wanted to like stay connected with everyone. And everyone was way older than her. Right. And she goes around and she's like, oh, so do you have a Facebook? And I'm like, I don't have Facebook. I have an Instagram. She's like, yeah, I only just ask the old people if they have Facebook. And I was like, oh, how dare you?
How
Like,
dare?
was like, I'm like, wait, so
Okay.
is it good that I don't have Facebook? Does that mean I'm not old because I don't have it? And she was like, yeah, you're cool. And I was like, okay, so that's what we're rolling with is 10 years from now when I'm 50, I want to still look and feel like I'm 40, and particularly in the feel part because I already feel it now. Like today I woke up and my ankle is sprained. I don't know how that happened. Like I just every day I wake up and a different body part hurts, and so we gotta figure that out.
I've had that. I've woken up and it felt like my ankle was sprained. I swear to God. If you figure out what that is, please let me know because it happens to me too. It'll go away eventually. But then,
Yeah.
anyway, it's weird.
I hear
So weird.
B vitamins are good for your joints.
B? Okay.
B.
But anyone could tell me anything right now, and I would say yes, I would do it because I have no idea how to go about this plan. So if you tell me B vitamins are great, then yeah,
Like,
they'll be in my cart
I only
later
say
today.
that, and like I've even thought about starting it myself because I also work out, usually at home, and every time I do squats, it seriously sound like I'm 100. Like it's like creaking in my knees, and it's
Same
terrible.
girl.
And my mother-in-law
Same.
started taking a B supplement. It's like 10,000 maybe, whatever. It's a big dose, but she used to get cortisone shots every 3 months, and she has not had one in a year since she started taking it. And
Oh.
like in her knees and her hands, like she had horrible arthritis, and I was like, "Oh, maybe I should start that now." Like I don't want to wait till I'm 60 because
Mhm.
my knees are already bad at 30. I'm in trouble.
Yeah, that's right. Like protect. That's all I want to do. I want to protect my knees, and I want to be able to do. Since you hold me accountable, send me this episode 10 years from now, and let's see if
Okay.
I did it. Well, it used to be like again, speaking of physical 100 and all that. When I was younger, I was actually pretty athletic. I played volleyball. Fun fact: I'm a national handball champion. That's like back in when I was a kid.
Okay, that's cool.
I used to be able to do like flex arm hang, like men do like pull ups and stuff, and women usually do like. I used to be able to do that for like I was the best person in my middle school, and like I was very strong. And now, if I don't even want to try because I already know what's going to happen, so
Mm.
all I want to do is be able to do arm hang for like 60 seconds. That's it.
That was from the presidential fitness test, wasn't it? The flexed arm hang.
Mhm.
I remember that.
That's
That's right.
Because, yes, you're right.
That's
The
right.
boys had to do pull ups and I could do one. I could do one. But then there was Chad Thorson. That was that kid. He could do like 16 of them.
See,
Sorry, Chad, if you're
Chad.
listening. Yeah, Chad.
Of course, his name was Chad.
I know, that's what I was thinking. But thanks for saying it. All right, cool. I feel like we could do this forever, but I'm going to have to close us. Thank you so much for joining us, Bernadette. It's been such a joy. Oh my God. I just didn't even mean to say that. But thank well, I hope that we our paths cross many, many more times in the future. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Yes. One final
for
question though. Where can people find you?
Oh, thank you.
Even in
Thank you.
retirement.
Yes. So Crush Your Money Goals is still alive and strong. It's crushyourmoneygoals.com. And then if you are looking to crush your money goals specifically in 2026, you can check out the book. It's wherever books are sold. It's on Audible. Right now, I think it's like $10. And there's also a free guide if you go to crushyourmoneygoals.com/free guide where you can download the guide that goes along with the book.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Yay.
All right, what a really cool conversation with Bernadette. I tell you, I met her at that conference and I thought, wow, we need to have her on the podcast. She's got great energy. So what stuck with you, Kirby?
Yes. So a few things, and it's hard to just pick one. Definitely at the beginning, as I mentioned, she asked the question of, are we here to serve or are we here just for our looks or whatever? And I really loved that. That stuck with me all the way through. And the other thing that I thought was so interesting was she brought up not having, a CFP, and she brought up not having any certificates or anything like that behind her. And I actually spoke with another female financial advisor not that long ago. And she worked for, it was like an Edward Jones or something like that, one of the bigger ones. And then she moved over to an independent company. And she said, they make you go through and get all these certificates that you don't even need. And her whole thing is to bring like financial literacy for people, specifically women. And so to hear Bernadette say, like, she has none of those certificates, and again, going back to, like, would you rather listen to somebody who has 500 or 5,000 testimonials, or would you rather
Yes.
listen to somebody with a certificate and say that they don't do any of the same practices that they're preaching to you? So I just really loved that. It was a great reminder, and she's just a ball of energy, and I loved it.
I would say, considering that she will tell you the truth, and considering the fact that she has achieved financial freedom, the fact that she would, if she could go back and think about it differently again, she would consider pursuing time freedom first, which I thought was a great testimonial to all of the concepts in this book. That was definitely a
Yes.
big one. And the second point that stuck with me is it just feels like when you achieve this freedom of your time and how you choose to use it, you now have choice. And she's chosen to pursue investing in lines with her conscience, and not to wear makeup, and whatever it is, you can do it because you're not beholden to any person or societal whatever, because you have this freedom, and that's what we're all shooting for.
I love that. And I do love, I actually had that highlighted, was the, protecting your calendar. And for me, that's one of the things, I think we talked about this maybe even on a previous episode, is one of the things I do first with a lot of my coaching clients, that is looking at your calendar and what does that look like? Because it's not only a reflection of like what you have going on, but also what you're avoiding. And where she said, she could have cut half of the things out of her life or off of her calendar just because it was an obligation and not something that she actually wanted to do. I mean, that speaks volumes. And the intentionality, and every single one of our guests this season has talked about the intentionality, the optionalities, and then also just being so aligned and like across the board.
Well, thanks for listening through right to the end of another episode of the Time Freedom Podcast. As always, like and subscribe on YouTube, or leave us a review on your favorite podcast player. Please, it really does help us. And for more information, always check us out at timefreedom.life. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.
Hey guys, I have a quick correction from the episode. I said that it was B vitamins that help your joints. And while that actually gives you energy, it's D3 with K2 that gives your joints a little bit of support. I've been taking a 10,000 milligram capsule, and let me tell you, it's been a game changer.
Hey, listeners of the podcast, I have a special deal for you. You can now pre-order my book, Time Freedom, if you go to the link timefreedombook.com. And my special is, normally, if you order 3 books, you can get the audiobook free immediately. If you put the promo code podcast, you can order 1 book at your favorite retailer, Amazon, bookshop.org, Barnes & Noble, wherever, and put your order number in the form, put the promo code podcast, and I'll immediately send you the audiobook for free right away, so you don't have to wait. Pre-order the hard copy book, get the audiobook free. Thank you so much for your support. timefreedombook.com.